Hey, I want to talk about a subject that I have touched on before a while back, but I've got so many videos that rather than just referring to that, I'll talk about the subject again because this is a new case I'm reading about. I want to talk about so-called initiation ceremonies in the military, and I'm going to read out the details of a court-martial case, which is quite disturbing, but it basically highlights the controversy to this. So bear with me, I'll read this out. It's a little bit lengthy, but it is important to know the details with this. Okay, so a Royal Marine forced a new recruit to lie in a paddling pool of urine and vomit before subjecting him to waterboarding as part of a horrific initiation, a court martial heard on Tuesday. Marine Ian Tennant, 32, is accused of ill treatment of subordinate Carlo Nicholson, who was forced to fight other Marines while naked and covered in cooking oil and eat dog food from a mess tin. He is standing trial alongside ex-Marine Ryan Logan, 25, at Portsmouth Military Court in Hampshire over the allegations which happened when Mr Nicholson joined the 45 Commando Marines base at Royal Marine Condor in Arbroath, Scotland. The court heard Nicholson had to complete a series of tasks in the initiation ceremony in May 2014, including running around camp naked and eating lard and desert spoons of cinnamon, chili, or curry powder. Captain Alison Tyler, prosecuting, said the prosecution's case is that the initiation was organised and to an extent structured. The initiation included drinking, games, and activities that the Marines had to take part in. To go to the next page, um, those those who came to me last during the stances were subjected to forfeits, which included beatings. Those who came last during the stances were subjected to forfeits, including beatings. Those beatings to Marine Nicholson are referred to as reefing. The games accumulated with ex-Marine Nicholson being waterboarded. The court heard a crowd of up to 150 people came together in the quadrangle where the initiation ceremony was held. Captain Tyler told the court, "You will see that the charge sheet that there are a number of processes described there, including removing clothes and running around naked and consuming milk as quickly as possible." He was also made to lie down in a paddling pool of urine and vomit while eggs were thrown at him. There were fights with other Marines while naked and covered in cooking oil and eating spoons of cinnamon, chili, or curry powder. Also eating dog food out of a mess tin while on all fours, eating lard, and swallowing liquid through a funnel, as well as consuming the content of a mess tin with contents of the pool and raw mop, herring, and lard. When Mr. Nicholson failed to fulfill any tasks, he was whipped and finally he was made to lie on a bench where a cloth was put over his face and water poured over the cloth. He was waterboarded. And this is the last page. Speaking of one task where new recruits were put into a dark drying room and ordered to consume alcohol and for teetotal Mr. Nicholson milk, Captain Tyler said they were told to get naked. They were then heralded into a dry room where a number of cases of alcohol and spirits were thrown in and Mr. Nicholson was given milk. They were told to drink as much as possible and if they needed to urinate or vomit would have to if they needed to urinate or vomit would have to do it in buckets provided in that drying room. The court heard that the vomit and urine in the buckets was then emptied into a small children's paddling pool, which Mr. Nicholson was made to lie in as eggs were thrown at him. Marine Tennant denies one charge of ill treatment to a subordinate. Ex-Marine Logan denies 3 counts of battery, one of assault by beating, occasioning actual body harm, and one charge of disgraceful conduct of a cruel kind. The trial continues. Okay, for a few things that need to be pointed out with this case. Firstly, the defendants deny the charges, so that has to be said. And, you know, court martials, as with civilian courts, it should be a case of innocent until proven guilty. So that has to be said. But clearly, these are very serious allegations of misconduct and cruelty. Now, I'm just going to put out what I think of this from this cusp, so that people know where my position is. I don't think there is any excuses for this sort of degrading treatment of subordinates. Simple as that. I fully understand that being a soldier, being in the armed forces, is not a normal job. And I fully understand that you need people who are exceptionally tough, both mentally and physically. I get that. If we're asking young men and women going into war zones, we obviously want people as a nation who are physically prepared for that. But I think that when you look at the track record in this, when you consider that there was suicides in deep cut barracks in Surrey a few years ago, um, which was a very notorious case. 4 young recruits killed themselves, and there has been other cases that have been highlighted since then. It is a very it's a very unfortunate thing. I just don't buy the argument that this is necessary. I just don't accept that because I am adamant that there is other ways to prepare soldiers for the toughness of war without subjecting them to that sort of degrading treatment. Now, I understand the argument here. If they're captured by, let's say, the Taliban or ISIS or whatever, they're going to go through a hell of a lot worse. I get that. But I have a few concerns about this. Firstly, how are we going to, as a nation, recruit people into the armed forces? If they hear reports like this, they're going to think, why the hell would I go through that? These are people who are joining the army to serve Queen and country, not to be treated like shit. It's a bit like in a prison, if you have a warder who's exceptionally cruel, that goes beyond the line of just being tough and being a disciplinarian. I think there is a red line. And if these charges are accurate, then these guys definitely crossed the line, and I hope they are punished. Um, People say, we're becoming a nation of softies, and this case that the army is exceptional, you need tough people. But very often this morphs into outright bullying, specific bullying of individuals. Personally, I think such initiation ceremonies should be absolutely outlawed by the armed forces. I think you can prepare people for war, put them through tough training courses, put them through battle stimulations, all the rest of it, without that sort of degrading treatment. And in terms of this argument that, well, they could be subjected to that by the enemy, um, okay, inform them of that. But I don't think this is necessary. I really don't. I appreciate that there will be people who disagree with me, but I just don't think this is a way to treat young people who want to serve Queen and country. And I think they could be prepared in different ways other than that sort of degrading way. Obviously, I'm not calling for them to be wrapped in cotton wool. I have enormous respect for soldiers, what they go through, enormous respect. And I'm not sure if I could do it. So I don't want anyone to see this as anti-military. In fact, quite the opposite. This is very pro-soldier. But last time I made a video about this, there was many people who were ex-service personnel who absolutely agreed with me. There were a few who were questioning it, but there were others who were absolutely agreeing with me. And this happens in other, let's say, macho industries, jobs as well. You do get it on some level in the police and in the fire service. I think there's no place for it. I am adamant that you can train people to be mentally and physically tough without resorting to these sort of tactics. And it isn't just Britain, it happens around the world. There's been cases in the US, in Russia, and there was a high profile case in Taiwan where, in an initiation ceremony, a young recruit actually died. This is disgusting. Um, no one should be dying on their home soil before they've even been in the war zone because of what they're doing, what has happened to them from their so-called colleagues. I mean, this is disgraceful. So I am pleased that it has went to a court martial. I am pleased there is a procedure in place, but I do think the problem is obviously still there. And I think the only way to get rid of this is for senior officers to start cracking down and saying, no, this isn't going to happen, and there's going to be severe penalties for any officer who abuses subordinates in this way. It's the definition of basically bullying behaviour. That's not serving Queen and country. As far as I'm concerned, that's bringing disgrace to the uniform because they're in a position of power. It's like any situation where you have a hierarchy and that power is being abused. It is what it is. It's wrong. Full stop. If you are in a position of power, you should be inspiring young recruits. You should be encouraging them in other ways. You should be showing them what leadership is made of. You shouldn't be degrading them. So, frankly, it pisses me off. And if all the evidence is presented at this trial and it's a fair trial, I hope these guys are punished. No one should have to go through that when all they're trying to do is serve Queen and country. Look, I get it. The job is exceptional. I understand that. I know this is not like an office job. It's not like a regular job, but I still argue that there's absolutely no reason whatsoever for that sort of degrading behaviour. It sickens me, to be quite honest, and it pisses me off that anyone will try and make excuses for it. So let me know your thoughts. If you are in the armed forces, I'd be interested in hearing your perspective. Firstly, I have enormous respect for what you do. So please, please, please don't take this as an anti-military video. It's absolutely not. In fact, if anything, it's pro-military. What I'm saying is, look, I understand some people aren't going to make it. Some people aren't going to be cut out for the army. They're going to drop out of the course and so on. And that's okay. That's natural. It happens in a lot of tough jobs. But at least it should be a case of that they're dropping out because they feel it's not for them and they're not living up to the standards that are expected. And that's a legitimate reason to drop out. They shouldn't be dropping out because they've been subjected to unnecessary degrading behavior. Um, I really am adamant that you can train people. I mean, eating dog shit for goodness sake, or dog food, it's just degrading for the sake of it. Now, okay, to be fair, the guy was given milk because he was teetotal, so I suppose there was some recognition there, but I don't see what. I mean, to be honest, if they're captured by the Taliban or Islamic State, they're going to be executed. They're not going to be fed dog food. They're just going to be executed anyway. So I don't see how it even prepares them. Um, in terms of torture, okay, there might be an argument there. You need to prepare people for the likelihood that if they're captured, they could be tortured. Okay, maybe put them through a stimulation of that. I don't know. I don't really know what the answer is, but I feel deeply uneasy about this. And if you disagree with me, you think I'm full of shit, that's fine. All I ask is that you make a reasoned adult argument and you don't just throw out insults. And I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching.